Hey there, Heather Ho, there's Jeff Cutter Diamond. Welcome you to part 2 of the Degrassism about effective royal and ranking kids at a table, like doing the Reddit community stuff about which character is represented by a table, who would sit at a specific table. In the first video, we covered the first 6, which is the queen bees, the cool kids, the jocks, the type A's, the feeders kids, and the geeks. And the Reddit community made queen bees like, they think they're above everything and try to run the school. They said Zoe, Paige, Manny, Allie, and Holly J. I named Holly J my #1 queen bee because of her trying to control things and all that. Paige had more empathy. The cool kids table had Hazel, Marisol, Jimmy, Spinner, and Marco. Everyone likes Spinner, so I put Spinner at #1 and Jimmy at #2 for cool kids and all that. Jocks, Jane, Riley, Owen, Drew, and Dallas, for their athletic prowess. I give Dallas #1 because his athletic prowess in hockey led to the whole Cam situation and all that, and you can't deny that. The type A table with, people being neurotic, I guess, Katie, Ashley, Claire, Emma, and Liberty. I couldn't really pick a #1. Liberty did fit the type A thing more so than Claire and Emma. But Claire and Emma were very neurotic too, so I made it a kind of a 3-way tie. The feeder kids had Eli, Becky, Tristan, Fiona, and Imogen. And I went with, did I go with Becky #1? I went with Tristan #1, despite him being hated, because, he had some good storylines, and he did have some things to do with Degrassi. And lastly, I talked about the geeks, the people that are smart, but basically the writers don't give them much credit. Toby, to me, was the #1 geek. I know Connor has Asperger's syndrome like myself, but Toby, to me, is #1 because, he had some good storylines, but the writers just forgot about him, and he was on the back burner. So much so, he wasn't really in the opening credits in the last few seasons, which was kind of a dig at him. But anyway, let's go with the other 6 and see what happens. All right, so we go with the stoners, like the people who are like weed fueled and, just don't care about much. So the stoners are Jay, Alex, Kelly, Miles, and Jake. Jake is #5 because it'd be biased, but yeah, I didn't know much about Jake in the Degrassi 9-14 universe. Practically he was a boy that Claire liked and all that, but somehow Claire's mom liked Jake's dad. They got married, meaning that Jake and Claire cannot really have a relationship because they're step siblings, but Claire didn't want to go back to Eli, I guess, and wanted to be with Jake, even though that it was technically wrong. Jake didn't really have much of anything to do with it. It was just a filler for Claire's problems with her family and all that. To me, I'm going to go Kelly at #4 because Kelly lasted only a few seasons. He was in season 8 with the college years. Actually wanted to be in a relationship with Manny, but somehow Emma swooped it. I think Emma took Kelly instead of Kelly wanted to be with Emma. So they get in a relationship. Kelly's love of the weed was prominent in Touch of Grey. I know Emma was trying to make friends and all that, and wanted to help him feed them with weed and all that. But Kelly was the one who had the weed in his apartment, in his student apartment and all that led to the whole mess. And he was caught with it and kicked off campus. Emma wanted to confess everything, but Kelly tells her not to. Kelly and Emma have a tumultuous relationship. Basically, Kelly's tired of Emma being controlling and goes back to the Yukon to work for his dad, and Emma just feels terrible. I'm going to go with Alex at #3 to me. It's the #3 stoner. I mean, Alex was brought in season 3 as the girl muscle of the Candy Bandits, and she was decent. And then Alex ends up pissing Emma off so badly that Emma fights Alex and actually does quite well against Alex. Poser, maybe? But yeah, Alex was one of the true bullies to Rick in season 4. Yes, she knew about the Terry situation. Yes, she had a point because, her mom has been hurt by abusive boyfriends and they've had to live in women's shelters. I mean, that's fine and all that. But I wish Alex made her point more across and all that. I can understand why she dealt with the Rick situation because, Rick was a offender to Terry. And once an offender, always an offender. I get it. But her ways of doing it were not the best. Alex did the paint and feathers prank. She never got found out about it because Jay and Spinner kept their mouth shut. And she managed to keep her mouth shut, even though that a few times she did feel like confessing, but she didn't. Alex unfortunately fell into a bad pit. She had a decent relationship with Paige. I liked Alex. It was okay and all that, but Alex just seemed, she tried to better herself, but then she gets caught up in Jay's bullshit and basically moves to Ajax. Number 2 is Miles. Miles was the prominent son of soon-to-be Toronto Mayor Miles Hollingsworth II. And Miles was a decent person, getting girls like Maya and Zoe to fall for him. His love of the stoner stuff was prominent in season 14 when Miles and Maya are together, but Maya is becoming increasingly worried about Miles' stuff, and Miles hears about Maya's stuff and tries to ghost her, which makes Maya freak out and basically say, I don't want this happening again, because Maya was freaked out by visions of Miles being like Cam, jumping off the balcony and slashing himself with a skate. And she was worried that Miles was going to end up like Cam. Like, I understand with Maya and all that, but the fact of the matter is that, Maya went a little too far. Miles was high under the influence of marijuana when he crashed his car with Maya in it into a car that we soon found out was Dallas's girlfriend and their infant son. So basically, Miles is worried about it. Maya protects Miles, but then Miles tells the truth because he realizes how bad it is for Maya. Miles then has the confrontation with his dad, gets closure in season 14, and tells Maya to check up on him, but Maya smiles and walks it off. And then Miles and Tristan are a pairing and all that, but Miles cheats on Tristan with the name is going to haunt me. Lola, that's it. And then, Tristan doesn't want Miles to regret being with Lola and all that. Miles, I don't know what happens with Miles and Tristan, but I think they're still a couple. And number 1 is Jay. Hate this guy. He was the devil on everyone's shoulder. Season 3, he got Sean to leave Emma and join the Candy Bandits and all that, and bragged about stealing stuff from Degrassi. Season 4, we all know about his involvement in the Rick situation, wanted to bully Rick. It would be fine if Jay had some connection with the whole Rick and Terry situation, like Spinner, Paige, and Alex even. But no, he just wanted to be a bully. He just wanted to prove his muscle and maybe become popular. I don't know with that guy. He basically got into Rick's head twice, telling Rick everything was cool after before the tiebreaker, so that Rick didn't know about the paint and feathers. And then talked about how Jimmy set the whole thing up when Spinner is worried that Jimmy's going to narc on him. Of course, Rick had a gun, wanted to go after Paige, but Paige tells him, quite the contrary, I don't think you should have been bullied and all that. And then, a lot of things happen. Jay basically pushes Alex and Spinner to keep quiet about their affairs with the whole season 4 thing. Spinner laughs at the end. Jake pops up in season 5 unexpectedly to try to be a friend to Spinner with Spinner and Darcy, but then Spinner breaks off with Jay. And then he's there when JT gets a pharmaceutical job, saying that JT should sell OxyContin because people will sell their own mothers to get pills. He does do a heroic thing after JT overdoses, probably on purpose, by getting him to the hospital. Season 6, he pops up out of nowhere to help Sean out with his issues with Peter, the Sean, Peter, Emma love triangle. And, during the street race, he tells Sean to flee the scene, even though Sean was trying to help the injured pedestrian. So why Jay Jay got lucky, no one found out about it and turned him in. Sean should have just said, Jay told me to leave the scene of the accident. Because then, he would have got less trouble and Jay would have been in deep shit. And then season 7, he dates Manny for some reason. So, yeah, he definitely was a stoner and a loner and a piece of crap. But that's just my opinion. All right, it's now time to talk about the loners, the people that, are kind of bad. Like, bad in either, like, being moody or bad being villains and all that. So you have these 5 loners. I probably will go with Syed at number 5 because not much is known about him. I didn't really watch the next class that much, but yeah, Syed was kind of a loner too, and was a decent person. If memory serves me right, he was the one who was blamed for calling in a bomb threat at the prom on the last season of Next Class, and because of his Muslim beliefs in, I think. But it was actually Esme who did that on purpose so that, she was trying to prevent Sig and Maya from going to prom together, even though Maya was trying to tell Sig to stay with Esme. But yeah, Saya got blamed for it and then said he would move to Montreal with relatives because, he was not happy with the cops and how he was treated. But Lola convinced him to stay. I don't think he was a loner. I think because he was Muslim, all that people think he's a loner. But no, he definitely wasn't who we think we were. I'm going to say Sean, controversially, will be number 4 for loners. Personally, I don't think Sean was really that much of a loner, too. Like, yeah, Sheldon was a thug and all that, who deafened a boy's ear and left for Toronto to be with his brother so that he would avoid jail. That's what his parents did, as we found out in Back in Black. But the simple fact is that, Sean was active. Like, he had a couple of relationships with Emma. He was in the Candy Bandits until he was with Ellie in that Saturday detention and then learned that, he and Ellie were peas in a pod, and I thought that Ellie would have been like a loner, but I guess not. But yeah, I think Sean wasn't completely a loner and all that. He was decent. He was a hero for what he did in season 4, protecting Emma from being shot by Rick and killing Rick. Like Sean, a lot of people, like I originally thought Sean would flee to Wasaga Beach to avoid the cops because he knew he was in trouble. But then the cops would have basically put Sean in trouble on that weekend. Like Sean would have had restrictions. He couldn't even go to Wasaga on the Monday, I bet. But yeah, Sean was a hero in a sense, and then left because of his PTSD and that he killed somebody, even though that was in self-defense and Rick was a school shooter, so thus he can get really hurt. And then he comes back in season 6 and fawns over Emma, which was very uncharacteristic of Sean. And then he decided to go to the army after Peter managed to get him expelled for drugs in the locker, even though that Peter did that on purpose so that he would stay with Emma. The fact of the matter is that, yeah, Sean left for the army afterwards because he just didn't have anything left, and that left Emma in a daze. Number 3 to me is Cam. Now, a loner, I'm going to say, in a sense of a loner that was non-violent, Cam is definitely number 1. But I'm thinking, look, the way I think about loners is that, it's a loner that does some bad things, then we know who 1 and 2 is. But yeah, I'm going to go with Cam with number 3. Cam, I think, gets badmouthed as a loner. He was decent and all of that. I mean, dude came from Cabot's Casing, which is 10 hours away from Toronto in Northern Ontario, to play hockey. He was homesick. You could see that. And he found a true connection with Maya, but then Sig becomes a jealous prick, as he almost always is. Every time Maya's with a boy, that's not him. He gets Cam wound up. Maya doesn't protect Cam. Cam gets in trouble, but Cam apologizes to Maya and wants to give back Maya's stuffed doll, Hoot, the next day as an apology. But Sig gets under Cam's skin. Cam goes to the JT York greenhouse and then kills himself in a gory fashion that Eli has to see A lot of people said he bled out. A lot of people said that, he hung himself. And like me, I have my theory that maybe he found some chemicals and drank it. And then maybe under the influence of it, he cut himself or hung himself. I mean, you can add on. I never thought about that until last year. It's like, wait a minute, he could have drank the chemicals and under the influence of stuff. Like people do bad things, but he might have slashed himself. He might have hung himself. It could be a combination. And as somebody who knows about garden chemicals, as dealing with the past 3 summers working in the Canadian Tire soil compound, I know about that stuff and how toxicity can happen. But yeah, Cam's death really haunted Maya and all that. Hunter definitely is number 2 in the loner sting. Like Hunter was a decent person, but he had a lot of weird fantasies and all that. His stuff was spotted in season 14 when they thought that Hunter had something to do with Degrassi Newts and all that, but no, Hunter had some strange things on his laptop and all that. And he bought pictures of the Spirit Squad, Ellie, the Power Squad, and one of them is his twin sister. Frankie's his twin sister. Like, dude, really? But yeah, Hunter was just a loner and all that. So much so he did the gaming club, but then Goldie and them shut it down, saying that it was too violent because the video game they were proposing had some female characters that looked like they were the bad guys and all that. And Hunter said that's just how they're modeled and all that. Unfortunately, Hunter says some bad stuff, and it gets back to Simpson. He shuts down the gaming club because of what Hunter did and said. Hunter goes bananas and decides to go after Maya, but that was partially Goldie making Maya the mouthpiece, thinking that, Maya should speak out for the um, feminists. But unfortunately, she inadvertently put Maya into crossfire. Hunter sneaks with a gun. Fortunately, Miles stops Hunter. Hunter goes to a psych ward for a couple of weeks to go down. And it was controversial how he got back into Degrassi, but I guess it was because it was a choice and all that. And Snake didn't want to fall afoul of Hollingsworth. He let Hunter back in. Hunter, of course, wanted Yale to determine if Yale should be addressed as a male, a female, or what. And Yale doesn't give him a straight answer. And Hunter's perceived as being homophobic, but Hunter just says, I just want to know. And he likes girls. I get it. And number 1, by a long shot, is Rick. He was the definite loner. Sure, he was sweet leaving roses at Terry's locker and becoming a decent boyfriend. Unfortunately, though, the pieces fell slowly together. He was emotionally and physically abusive to Terry. People remember him putting Terry's head on a rock in Don't Dream It's Over. But what people forget is that that was not the first time he physically hurt Terry. The first time was when he shoved her against a wall and they break off. And then during trust exercise, they find they're okay with each other. And Terry brings Rick to the road trip alongside Hazel, Jimmy, Paige, and Spinner because she wanted to find somebody. She didn't want to be the odd one out. But of course, things happened and Rick was abusive. Rick is pulled out of school. I originally thought he was expelled because somehow it was found out about Rick. But no, Rick's mom pulls him out of school and he kind of cried crocodile tears at um, the situation. Rick comes back in season 4. Everyone's upset by it, saying that the faculty refused to do a thing about it, and they're right in a way. Rick wants to prove he's changed, but unfortunately, he doesn't really change. And it doesn't help that the bullying was too high intensity. I mean, yeah, they want Rick out, and they did it because why would they let Rick back in the school? And frustration that the staff refused to do a damn thing about it. So yeah, mob justice. Rick manages to kind of win out until he decides to retaliate by spray painting all his tormentors' cars and all that. Then they go after him, and he's basically a target. But then, after being painted and feathered and spurned by Emma, he decides to take a gun to shoot Paige because Paige spread the rhetoric about Rick. Paige calms him down inadvertently. Rick doesn't show the gun to anybody, and then puts the gun in his locker, but then is pushed to put it back to put back in his possession thanks to Spinner and blaming everything on Jimmy. He shoots Jimmy. He goes after Emma, but Sean shoots him dead. And there's no sympathy about Rick because Rick If he had not retaliated, he definitely would have had everyone's sympathy. He probably would have won out in the end, but no, he didn't. And that's the way it goes. All right, next is the class clown. And these are people who are kind of comic relief, if you will. Now, what I found out about this is it's strange. This is the first time there's a character from the OG Degrassi universe, Degrassi Junior High / High in it. So that's going to change my way of thinking because now I got to think about the whole Degrassi High Junior High universe too. I'm going to go. Okay, here we go. Number 5 is Mo. I mean, again, it's a little biased because I didn't watch the Degrassi 9-14 universe that much. But the fact of the matter is that, yeah, Mo was decent and all that. He was trying to do his comedy routine in Throwback Thursday. He was in it. And Tristan shot him down. And Mo basically tells Tristan that anything you find amusing should be in, but anything you find offensive, you just cut out because you don't care. And then Tristan realizes he's being a dick. Yeah. Number 4 to me is Dave. No disrespect to Julio French, the late Julio French. But I think Dave, as a class clown, was just basically all he was. And he was black-holed and all that, I think. He had a decent relationship with Jenna. I mean, not with Jenna, with Ali. I think Ali's parents liked Dave more with Ali than Dallas with Ali. But yeah, Dave and Ali had a good relationship and all that. He was friends with Jacinda, who was way taller than him, I think. And then, he was part of that thing with Wesley, band with Wesley and Connor. So that was cool. He was trying to be the ladies' man and all that, to Shantae's annoyance. But anyway, Danny was, Dave was a good class clown, if you will. Number 3 to me is Danny. Danny was just basically JT's sidekick, if you will. The fact of the matter is that, Danny was Liberty's brother, always pushed to do academically. He was more lax with his stuff than Liberty was. He liked JT. He wanted to hang out with JT at the expense of JT leaving Toby, leaving him wide open to be with Rick. Danny was self-conscious and of that. He was a brat to Liberty and basically wanted JT and Liberty to take care of his fake babies. Otherwise, he'll blab about the pregnancy and all that. He was manipulative. Now, Danny, of course, with Derek and all that. Derek's in none of these tables, by the way. So yeah, Danny and Derek being friends and all that, but until Derek throws Danny under the bus a couple of times, and Danny finally decides not to do that. Yeah, it was just comic relief in fact. He didn't really have too many good storylines, unfortunately. Number 2 is Joey. No, it's controversial, but number 1 is number 1 for a reason. I'm going to go with Joey because, Joey in Degrassi Junior High and High was just like comic relief. He was a little immature, but hey, you're a teenager. What do you expect? He got himself into a lot of situations. He got Wheels into some bad situations alongside Snake, them hanging out, being a group. That's it, Remedy, which is a decent band and all that, but, Wheels' parents did not like Wheels being with Joey. I think they were definitely okay with Wheels being with Snake. I mean, what did they have against Snake? But yeah, Joey was immature with his relationship with Caitlin. He was immature in a lot of things. He thought that Raj was out to get him in Degrassi High, but, they made a peace bond. So Joey having learning difficulties and, probably using comedy to try to alleviate the problems. But Joey ended up being a decent guy. Like, yeah, he was a used car salesman, and he was in Degrassi Next Gen, being a good father to Angie, being a good kind of stepfather in a sense to Craig, doing a lot of things and all that. So, yeah, it was decent relief at times. And number 1 by a long shot is JT. Like, why wouldn't it be? JT was made out to be the class clown. The first 3+ seasons, he was just comic relief and all that. He ran for student council president on a joke campaign. He also liked talking to people. He wanted to be popular, so he hung around Paige's click. He wanted to be on TV, so he got into a cheesy commercial. He was cheesy and all that with Hatzalakos in season 2, but he matured a bit. He started to get more mature and all that. In season 4, he wanted to be with Manny so badly, but was jealous of Craig and got a penis pump. Yak. Yeah, immaturity of that. He was insecure, I think. I mean, JT's father left him. His mom, I think, is dead or something. And that's why JT's grandmother is raising him, as she mentioned in season 5. JT was immature in the fact that he left Toby to be with Danny, and Manny chewed him out for that. And JT finally realized Manny was right. So he patched things up with Toby. He ended up impregnating Liberty and got serious and wanted to help the baby out. So he got a job at a pharmaceutical place and is told by Jay to sell OxyContin because, as I said, when I talked about Jay, people will sell their own mothers for OxyContin. Of course, JT gets in way over his head with a drug dealer, Liberty, and of course, doing the drugs in the first place. So he decides to off himself with the drugs, but Jay saves him in a sense. JT becomes more mature, gets a relationship with Mia and her 3-year-old Izzy, and Liberty's a little jealous. She has a right to be, but the fact of the matter is JT, wanted to do things right, and then he got into that war with Lakehurst, and they killed him. And, a lot of people said, why we're praising JT? He was just a class clown. Yeah, but he was a vital part of season 1 of Degrassi. Fight me on it. All right, so we're ready to do the band kids and all that. And the band and choir kids, basically the musical, the characters who use music in their lives and all that. Because they all performed in bands and were pretty much big into music and all that. Don't hate me on this, but I'm gonna go number 5 is Jenna. Yeah, she was a singer. She was on a Teen Star program and all that while pregnant with Tyson and told by Shantae to tell about the pregnancy so that she could get sympathy because there's a lot of other competitors who have life-altering stories. And of course, the pregnancy, telling about the pregnancy made Casey mad because Casey was trying to prevent his mom from knowing. But fortunately for him, Casey's mom offered to help and all that. So Jenna was this boyfriend stealer. She told Claire straight out she's going to steal a boyfriend and stole Casey away from Claire in season 9. And then, Jenna and Casey were a weird relationship. Casey cheating on Jenna and then says, you told me to play basketball. Trying to usurp your responsibilities, Casey. You're a father. Well, Casey was moaning about his responsibilities being a father towards Shantae. I mean, not Shantae, Marisol. And Marisol confronted him about it, comforted him. But yeah, Jenna was just basically off-putting, like after losing Ty, because there's a change table incident, and then they decide to put Ty up for adoption. She was nowhere to be seen. She was seen helping Becky deal with her problems with Christianity and all that. But then, of course, Becky aside, Jenna was with Connor, and that was an underrated relationship. Number 4 for me is I'll go Sav number 4. Sav was in the band, was one of the guitarists for Peter's band, and Peter is part of this list. But I think Sav to me is number 4 because he was in an arranged marriage and all that, the Muslim faith, and at times he just listened to his parents and not his gut and all that. He wanted more freedom and all that towards the end, but it was fine. And then his parents loosened up to him. But I kind of hate Sav on the fact that he had that relationship with Miss O and basically got away with it. I mean, they both were at fault. But I think that Sav was just terrible to Olander. Not Olander, what am I thinking? But anyway, yeah, Sav was just terrible. Having that relationship and all that. Number 3 to me is going to be Craig, should I say? Yeah, I'll go Craig in number 3 because Craig, to me, was good. Now, he wasn't like a band guy. Like, when he started. Season 2, he was into photography. And I always mess up that word. I can't really pronounce it right. But anyway, yeah, he was introduced as someone who was taking photos of Emma and um, Angie and all that. But he had a reason. His home life sucked because his parents were divorced while his mother left him and his dad. And his dad basically beats Craig for almost no good reason. I think he just wanted to use Craig as a punching bag. And fortunately, Craig gets out of the situation. Joey helps him out. But Craig's dad comes back in and woos Craig, but then shows his true colors again and then dies off screen. And Craig doesn't know how to process it and goes nuts at the luau dance. Um, yeah, his relationships, he was in that love triangle with Ashley and Manny, and it was very, very messy and all that. He used a sappy song to gain Ashley's trust back, which was pathetic. Ashley had every right to be mad at him. Every. It would have made Ashley more badass, in a sense. Then he got diagnosed with being bipolar in season 4 because of an episode where he ruined Ashley's dad's gay wedding and all that. So he feels bad about it. And then Ellie comes close to him and wants to be with Craig, making her a pick-me girl. But then, Craig has weird relationships and all that, goes to Calgary to get clean from drugs, for being on the Vancouver drug scene, if you will. Yeah, he was kind of hated in a sense. Number 2 is Peter. Peter had his band, the Studs and all that, the main guy from the band. But Peter was a terrible person. Season 5, Emma was attracted to him, but he was attracted to Manny and tried to blackmail Manny into giving him $3,000 for a new camera or else he'll share Manny's topless video, but Manny can't come up with the cash. And Peter distributes the video and gets in trouble with Hatzalakos, who ended up being his mom, but not much. He should have been expelled for what he did, or something much more heavy than massive detentions. Motherly love, am I right? But the fact of the matter is that, Peter manages to be with Emma because Emma wants to be with Peter despite Peter being a bad person who put Manny in a bad situation. So they date in secret, but then Manny outs them in a sense. Peter is worried about Emma's eating disorder and wants to help Emma out. And then they become a couple in season 6. Unfortunately, Sean pops back in the picture and Emma is conflicted who she loves more. Peter puts drugs in Sean's locker to get rid of Sean. And then they have a street race for Emma's heart in which Sean hits a pedestrian. Peter gets in trouble for street racing, gets massive community service. And then when Emma breaks off with him because he put a mask in her locker, he must have cried crocodile tears. He never got any additional problem with the drugs or anything else. Emma should have forced Peter to confess to Hatzalakos everything. And then Peter, wants to be with Darcy and gets Darcy in trouble by Darcy posting her pictures online and all that. And then Peter ends up, being a bad person. And he matures more from like season 7 to 10, but it feels like he has to. Well, his relationship with Mia was okay, but then he got into a 2-day drug craze and called his mom for protection. So Peter seemed to be okay, but he was just a prick. And number 1 by a long shot is Maya. Definitely Maya, because, girl with a cello virtuoso, she was musically gifted and all that. That was her main character until she probably lost her passion for the cello once Cam died. Maya blamed herself in a sense for Cam's death and all that. She should have helped Cam, especially protect Cam and tell Principal Simpson that Sig goaded him into it and then get Sig in trouble. But no, she didn't. She felt terrible. Cam's death haunted her. And just when we thought that she was over Cam's death by season 13, she wasn't, because she was trying to protect Miles from himself in season 14, which saw parallels of trying to help her with Cam and try to alleviate her guilt, which she kind of does by helping Miles deal with his dad. And then Miles smiles and walks away and then goes with Sig. And then thinks that she's in the clear, but then a bus crash in Next Class season 2 brings back bad memories of the situation. Maya almost offs herself in season 3 of Next Class, and then spends season 4 recovering. And that's all there is to it. All right, now time for the preppy kids. Like, I don't know how you define preppy, but these 5 people are in the preppy things. Declan to me is number 5 out of these people. I mean, Declan was Fiona's twin, as I mentioned beforehand. He had a thing for Holly J and actually wanted to buy Holly J out because when Holly J was losing money because her parents were being investigated for stuff, Declan offered to help Holly J out financially, but for his own needs as well. But Holly J said no. Declan was okay in a sense, but he was more of a prick to Holly J than you think. Number 4 is Shantae. You'd probably be surprised me making Shantae not number 5. No, Shantae to me was number 4, and she was there forever. She was even in season 4 of the show. People forget about that all the way to like season 12. So it's like, why did Shantae graduate and all that stuff? She was in for 8 seasons. Shantae was okay and all that. One of her main things was in season 10 when Simpson takes away all the extracurriculars because of the Vegas night fiasco, and he had every right to. I mean, the students did betray his trust. She decides to leave post-it notes on Snake's car, making Snake spit out his coffee, and Snake finally deciding to have a peace bond, saying that, I'll take, well, if you do well enough, I will make sure things will come back piece by piece and all that. That's all Shantae's really known for. Number 3 to me is going to be Frankie. Now, Frankie is, of course, Hunter's twin. As I mentioned earlier, she was this girl. She was basically spoiled rotten because of being in the Hollingsworth family that soon became part of a mayoral thing, and the mother not doing much to help situations and all that. But yeah, Frankie was a little bit hopeless. She was just the spoiled little rich girl and all that. She was worried about her dad being abusive, but wanted his money, wanted to throw the Great Gatsby party, and grew close to him so that she could have that party. Kind of weird. Regardless of that, Frankie in the summer movie is with an intern, and the intern wants $10,000 to help his girlfriend out, being kidnapped and all that. Frankie tries to rustle up the money, but then it's learned that the intern was actually part of a blackmail thing with Gloria to milk Frankie out of $10,000, or bilk, if you will. Frankie thankfully doesn't lose that much money, I think. Regardless of that, she gets a relationship with Winston. She's in a polyamorous relationship with Sig and Esme because Esme doesn't want to lose Sig and doesn't want to lose Frankie. That too. Frankie, of course, is the big central figure in the whole racist plot in season 2 of Next Class, in which she draws certain members of Northern Tech as gorillas, and in black culture, that's not good. Frankie, of course, got blasted for her lack of apology. She tried to apologize, but she couldn't get a good apology through, and they basically pushed her a little bit, and she tries to run away, and then a black man helps her out, and Frankie basically figures that, maybe she is going through things with rose-colored glasses, and besides being part of a Hollingsworth family and spoiled rotten and white privilege, all that, she tries to fix her problems. Number 2 to me is Anya. Anya was more of a follower, if you will, than preppy. Anya was in Holly J's shadow, dressed like Holly J. Holly J basically pushed Anya to be like her so that Anya would be popular and wouldn't be a nobody. Anya had a terrible home life with her mother's problems and her own problems. Anya finally breaks away from Holly J in a sense and wants to be with Sav, but Sav's traditional marriage thing kind of makes Sav look like an asshole in a sense. But Anya, was a good person and all that. But she was more of a follower and all that. She had the problems with Dr. Chris and Owen and went to the army because she could follow orders. That kind of is stereotypical, but it is what it is. And number one for the preppy kids is Darcy, for surezies. I think it's definitely Darcy because, I mean, Darcy was this goody goody Christian character that people hated, even though she tried to help Spinner out with his problems in season 5 because Spinner felt terrible about what he did to Jimmy and putting the blame on Jimmy that got him shot. So yeah, Darcy was okay, but Darcy was a little more promiscuous than you think she was. She was trying to get out of the Christian shadow. Most kids do that. And then she ends up being with Peter, which pisses off her parents, obviously, because of Peter's past. And, Darcy shouldn't be with Peter. In the first place, Darcy posts weird pictures of herself. She gets a stalker. Fortunately, he gets stopped before it gets too bad. Darcy breaks up with Peter, and then Peter cries crocodile tears to Darcy about his relationships, and she listens to him. Darcy then gets raped in season 7. She doesn't know her accuser, and she acts self-loathing, threatens to slash herself in the girl's shower, and then tries to jump off the roof, but Manny saves her from both things. Darcy inappropriately has a thing with Snake, and then accuses Snake of stuff, and people take her at face value, even though Darcy was scared because she knew that the rape was going to come out, and her parents did not approve of a lot of things. She did come forward and fixed her problems eventually, but she went off to Kenya. She just vanished. I know Sinead Grimes wanted to do 90210, but Darcy was really not mentioned after season 8, which was a bummer because I wish we learned about that and her relationship with Claire. All right, to finish off this two-parter is the Goths and Emo table. You got Jonah, Ellie, Grace, Sig, and Spike. To me, Jonah is number 5. I didn't know he was emo and all that. I know Jonah was with a girl and all that and has a child with that girl and is not allowed to see the baby. But, him hooking up with Frankie, he was trying to help Frankie be a better person and make Frankie not be the spoiled rich brat that everyone hated on. But the fact of the matter is that Jonah was kind of an awkward character to me and all that. Number 4, let's see. I'm going to go with Grace at number 4. Grace was portrayed as this decent character and all that. We soon learned that Grace needs new lungs because of her cystic fibrosis, which affects her breathing and all that. So her CF was huge. She had storylines trying to get new lungs and all that. Grace was actually the brains behind the website for Degrassi Nudes. And yet she escaped punishment because I think Zoe did not want Grace to get in trouble, and Grace didn't really have her fingerprints on it, even though some people thought otherwise. So yeah, Grace was a mastermind. Zoe moves in with Grace because of Zoe being kicked out because her parents did not approve of her gay relationship with Rasha and her being gay in the first place and not getting movie roles. So yeah, so you had to think for Grace, but Grace was hetero. But yeah, Grace and Jonah hooked up, I believe. Yeah, and then that's the relationship when we find out that Grace got her lungs and is recovering. Great. Number 3 for me is Ellie. I feel bad about putting Ellie at number 3, but she was okay. She was introduced like as a goth girl that liked goth style and all that. Soon she became Marco's beard in a way, like fake girlfriend, so that Marco doesn't have to come out of the closet. She tells Marco to come out of the closet. Anyway, and then season 3, she has her own problems because her dad's a colonel in the army and goes to Afghanistan, which was a big war at that time in 2003. Her mother is a drunk and all that. Ellie cuts herself with a compass, and it is a compass. I keep saying protractor, but protractor is the little circular thing. But yeah, with a compass that caused a lot of trouble because 3 girls in Montreal did that, and CTV had to apologize. But yeah, she cuts herself to alleviate her pain. Paige begs of Ellie to go to therapy, and Ellie does. And then she will always be a cutter and all that, no matter what you say. She tells Craig that. And then she just was a moody pick-me girl. Well, she was upset when Sean left in season 4 to go to Wasaga because Sean and Ellie were living together in student housing. It was a good relationship for both of them. They managed their detention and they liked each other. But Ellie became a pick-me girl with like Jesse from the newspaper, and then Craig, and then almost drowns herself in the Pacific Ocean before uh, Marco and Craig save her from herself. She had her PTSD problems. Number 2 is Sig. This isn't anything personal in a sense, but I think that number 1 is definitely number 1. So the fact about it is that Sig was this brooding guy who liked Maya, but did not like Maya being with Cam, and made Cam angry, had a spirit thing, and then got Maya to come to think that Cam was the bad guy, not Sig. Probably put pressure on Maya to stay with him in a sense. So Cam got in trouble, and Maya feels bad about herself. And Sig finds Cam wanting to be with Maya and tells him the world would be better if you don't exist. Her life would be better if you didn't exist. Pushing Cam one too many times, and Cam finally decides to off himself. Sig blames himself for it and even tells Maya that, but Maya laughs it off. Maya has every right to be angry because, Cam killed himself. She has every right to. I'm not blaming her for anything. But yet, Sig wanted to be with Maya. The weird thing was that Sig was possessive of Maya in a sense that when Maya was with other boys, he felt jealous and wanted to be with Maya. But when he was with Maya, he didn't seem to be the perfect boyfriend. I compared him to Veronica from the Archie comics universe, that Veronica seems to only want Archie because Betty wants Archie. It would be a better fit for Archie to be with Betty because Betty's family is warm to Archie, warmer than Veronica's parents are. Yeah, Veronica, one day, Betty gives Archie to Veronica, and Veronica feels bored about that, doesn't want Archie, in a sense. Kind of pathetic. It feels that way with Sid sometimes, too. And number 1, by a long shot, the OG, Spike. It's got to be Spike. Emo, goth. Well, remember, this is the Spike from Degrassi High, Junior High / High, wearing her hair the way it was, like Cyndi Lauper and all that. It was referenced in season 2 of Degrassi Next Gen. But yeah, she was into punk and all that stuff. And, she had Emma with Shane. Of course, Shane's parents were not approving of Shane wanting to be with the baby and all that, and prevented Shane from that, even though Shane wanted to be with Emma. But the fact of the matter is that Spike raising Emma by herself with little male help, well, Snake sometimes popped into the picture, but the fact is that, she was a decent mother and all that. Yes, of course, she should be blamed a little bit for Emma's tendencies, but Emma just wanted to be like Spike and be an independent woman, but Emma goes overboard. Spike, I don't think, did. She was decent. She ended up being with Snake in season 2. They got married and all that. She wanted to board baby Jack, but thankfully didn't. Emma and Snake told her stuff like that. Season 3, Shane pops back in the picture because Emma wants to know about her father, but Spike is of little help or little wanting to be helpful, which was stupid because Emma just asked a question. But of course, it's found out that Shane took acid, jumped off or fell off a bridge. They don't know. And then he's in the house for mentally deficient people and all that. But of course, that happened. And then Spike kind of got hated on for her behavior towards Snake in season 7 when Snake is accused by Darcy of this stuff and couldn't go to work and all that. And then Spike flat out tells Snake, don't get Emma involved because she's going to have an eating disorder because of her problems. That was just pathetic and all that. I know you're worried about your daughter, but you're making your daughter look like a villain. In season 5, of course, she leaves Snake because of his innocent treats with Hatzalakos, but then Snake woos her back. So she's happy about that. And I'm happy I'm finishing this off. A 2-parter that was longer than I thought. Anyway, I'm Jeff Diamond. I do